kids, welcome to the 4th episode of the Mido Adventures series. Mido vs. Crocodile and Hippopotamus. Enjoy watching.
Mido, the curious and brave Apatosaurus, had been traveling for days through the lush jungle. His journey was full of surprises, both exhilarating and terrifying. After narrowly escaping the monkeys in the dense forest, he had moved further south, toward a great river that stretched out across the land like a silver ribbon under the sun. The heat of the day was sweltering, and as Mido approached the river's edge, the refreshing sight of cool flowing water beckoned him. With a sigh of relief, Mido decided to take a break. His long, massive body, always in motion as he traveled, craved the solace of the cool river. The water looked inviting, and without hesitation, he waded in, letting the current rush around his legs. The coolness of the river provided him with a much-needed reprieve from the sweltering heat of the jungle. But, as Mido ventured deeper into the water, something felt off. The once peaceful sounds of the river seemed to fade as the jungle fell eerily quiet. Mido paused, his sharp senses picking up a subtle disturbance. The water rippled unnervingly around him. He glanced to the sides, his eyes scanning the jungle for anything out of the ordinary. Then, it happened. With a sudden and terrifying splash, a crocodile lunged from the depths, its jaws snapping shut with a deafening hiss. Mido recoiled instinctively, his massive body twisting to avoid the sharp teeth that could easily tear through flesh. Before he could react, 2 more crocodiles emerged from the shadows, their sleek bodies slicing through the water like dark shadows. The water seemed to teem with their presence. Mido's heart raced. He had read about crocodiles before in the books he had found during his travels, but facing them in person was an entirely different experience. Their eyes glinted with predatory hunger, and their powerful tails slapped the water as they circled him. But just as Mido began to back away toward the bank, he felt the ground beneath his feet shift. He looked down in shock to see large, heavy figures approaching him from the other side of the river. Hippos, their massive forms wading through the water toward him with surprising speed. They moved with purpose, their broad mouths opening to reveal tusks that gleamed dangerously. The situation had just gotten much worse. The crocodiles had the advantage in the water, and the hippos, known for their unpredictable and violent nature, were fast approaching from the shore. Mido was trapped. His mind raced as he assessed the situation. He was large, but not in the water. The crocodiles were expert swimmers, and the hippos were formidable fighters on land and in water. There was no easy escape. But Mido was not one to give up easily, and he knew he had to rely on his wits if he had any chance of getting out of this. Suddenly, a plan began to form in his mind. Mido took a deep breath, trying to calm himself. The crocodiles were focused on him, but he needed to distract them long enough to make a break for it. He remembered a small island in the middle of the Rivera place where the water was shallow, and the land could offer some shelter. If he could get there, he might be able to create enough of a barrier between himself and his enemies. With a burst of speed, Mido surged forward, kicking up a flurry of water as he made his way toward the island. The crocodiles reacted immediately, swimming after him with terrifying speed, their jaws snapping inches from his thick hide. But just as they were closing in, Mido swung his tail violently, sending a shockwave through the water. The force of the movement was enough to send one crocodile tumbling back, its momentum carrying it off course. The other crocodiles hesitated for a split second, just long enough for Mido to make his move. He pushed himself harder, his massive legs kicking against the current. He was almost there. But the hippopotamus animals were closing in too, and Mido could hear their low grunts as they charged forward, their large bodies moving quickly through the water. It was a race? No, a race to the island, where Mido could find some respite from the jaws of the crocodiles and the crushing tusks of the hippopotamus animals. As he reached the shallow waters near the island, Mido dug his claws into the riverbed, using his strength to propel himself upward. The first crocodile lunged at him, but Mido swung his tail again, knocking the reptile back into the water with a force that sent ripples through the river. One of the hippopotamus animals was nearly on top of him, and Mido leaped forward, just managing to scramble onto the rocky shore of the island. His heart pounded in his chest as he scrambled up the rocks, his legs shaking from the exertion. The crocodiles swam around the island, snapping at him from all sides, but they couldn't reach him now. The hippopotamus animals, too, stopped at the water's edge, their massive mouths open in frustration as they eyed their prey from afar. Mido was safe for now, but he knew he couldn't stay on the island forever. The crocodiles would wait, and the hippopotamus animals wouldn't give up either. He needed to think of a way to outsmart them once more. Suddenly, a thought struck him. He remembered the dense foliage on the opposite bank of the river, thick and tangled. If he could get to the trees, he could use the terrain to his advantage. The crocodiles were less agile on land, and the hippopotamus animals, though powerful, would have a hard time navigating the dense undergrowth. But first, Mido had to deal with the immediate threat. He wasn't sure how much longer he could stay on the island without being noticed. With a daring roar, Mido charged toward the riverbank, drawing the attention of the crocodiles and the hippopotamus animals. As the predators surged forward, he made a sudden and unexpected turn, launching himself into the trees on the far side. He crashed through the underbrush, his long body breaking branches and sending leaves scattering in all directions. The crocodiles hesitated, too large and cumbersome to follow him into the jungle. The hippopotamus animals, though more capable on land, were slower and had trouble navigating the dense forest. Mido kept running, weaving through the trees, until he was far enough away from the river to be safe. The sounds of the predators faded behind him as he pressed on, breathing heavily but relieved to have escaped once again. And so, Mido's journey continued, filled with more adventures, challenges, and close calls. Yet, through it all, he had learned something vital, that his courage, intelligence, and quick thinking were often the keys to surviving in a world full of dangers. As he ventured further into the unknown, he knew that the road ahead would not be easy. But Mido, the brave Apatosaurus, was ready for whatever challenges lay in his path.
Goodbye kids. For more stories, don't forget to subscribe, like and share.